I spit Patron on this microphone. Watch out, I'm in the zone. Worth for everything I own. Life is March Madness. One mistake, then you go. Yeah, I had a stroke, but your boy still rhyming. And Fresh got locked, but the squad still wildin'. Catch me in any city in the hood, we grindin'.
What's up, Fight Fam, and welcome to Boxing Bros. I'm Showtime Caden, and I'm here with my co-hosts. I'll let them introduce themselves.
What's going on? This is Trill Dollar Bill.
This is G.
TBE, what up, baby?
All right, so the first topic we're going to discuss is the big fight. Errol Spence Jr. versus Danny Garcia. Errol Spence Jr. took a unanimous decision against Danny Swift Garcia. G, what was your reaction to the fight?
I thought it was a great fight. For one, it went by real fast. I was just telling Trill this. I was like, man, it went by so quick. I was like, damn, it's over already, you know? So salute to both gentlemen. I'll say this, though. I felt like Danny did a horrible job, you know, and this is the reason why is he fought the wrong fight. Or I'll say this. He may have fought the correct fight, but he didn't utilize all his tools during the fight. So, for example, there's, you know, Danny is the smaller guy. He was, you know, had a 4-inch reach disadvantage against Spence. But at times, Spence would say, hey, forget boxing. Let me just go in the pocket and just do my thing. I felt like those were the moments where Danny could have extremely capitalized and landed some good power shots. And most of the time, Danny did nothing. So what I was watching was Danny fighting majority of the fight off the back foot when he should have been pressing the action. He let Errol press the action the entire fight. And so he was losing a number of rounds where I felt like he could have won if, in fact, he just started swinging more. So to me, it was, and I get it, he is a counter fighter, a counter puncher, right? I get that. However, you can't keep doing that round after round after round. You got to switch up the game plan. And for everybody that was like hating on Angel Garcia saying, oh, you know, you need to lose, you got to lose your father and get a new trainer. I thought Angel was giving him sound advice. You know what I mean? Angel was telling him, like, yo, let your hands go. Like, when he's in your face, let your hands go. You know what I mean? But Danny just wasn't listening. So what do you do when you got a fighter that's just not listening to you, man? You can't really blame that on the trainer. You know what I mean? It's not like a trainer like Anthony Yard's trainer who's forgetting to put the mouthpiece in the dude's mouth a couple of times. And like,
Two
Angel,
times.
Yeah, it's outrageous, you know what I mean? But Angel at least was telling Danny what to do. Danny just wasn't listening. And to me, it looked like Earl literally was frustrating Garcia in that fight. You know, and then what I liked about Earl was the fact that he kept pressing the action, kept moving him, like moving Danny on the back foot. I thought that was great. It was crazy the fact that I seen Earl get him to the corner a couple of times. I was like, what is Garcia doing? You know, but nonetheless, man, great fight. I had it 116, 112 for Spence. I'm glad I was wrong about my prediction. So people in the comments, please don't murder your boy. I wanted Spence to win. Yeah, I understand that car accident video looked crazy. Even during the build-up, they were talking about Spence said he didn't remember him being in the hospital for 3 whole weeks. When you hear stuff like that, man, it's kind of hard to be like, nah.
You know what, G? And I don't care what the people have to say. I really don't, because they're gonna say that I'm picking on you, G.
Go ahead.
Tell the truth. No, tell the truth.
Go ahead.
Tell the truth. You only picked Danny Garcia to jinx him. That's why you picked him. That's really wrong.
You said that.
So you picked Danny Garcia to jinx him. Tell the people the truth.
Nah, you trying to say about predictions is that bad luck? You know what I mean? Nah, man. Nah. Really, I honestly thought this was Danny's time because of all the things, the Ferrari, all that situation with the car, you know, the recovery, you know, all of that stuff. I just thought like we may not be seeing the same Spence, and to me, I think we've seen a better Spence. So definitely excited for Spence's next fight. Hopefully, it's with TC.
Dollar Bill.
Good fight. I had it 116, 112, just like G had it. I agree with a lot what G said, but the reason why I got out my hat is because I'm Trill Nostradamus. And like I said, size and will come to play. And I didn't expect Earl to look that bigger than Danny, but he did. um, it looked like at times it looked like a 154 pounder versus a 140-pound fighter. I thought Danny fought with heart. I thought Danny fought a good fight. I seen Danny coming forward. I seen him ripping body shots. I seen even Earl get Earl's attention with the body shots. I think that Danny proved that he is an elite fighter and he's a force to be reckoned with. Earl was just too big and too much, and Earl kept good distance. He used a great reach. Angel gave like what G was saying. Angel gave Danny good advice, but it's like you could tell somebody to go in there and do something, but when you in there and you getting hit with these punches, it's hard to sometimes implicate what your trainer wants you to do when you're actually in there and you're getting punched in the face. I think that Danny did very well in even bringing it to Earl at some times, bringing it to the bigger guy. He didn't back down. Danny still fought. There was at a one time in the fight where I was starting to think, where I brought up was Danny still hungry? That was a time where I said it because it was a time where I had it was like six rounds for Earl and 4 rounds for Danny. And then I was like, if Danny gets these next 2 rounds, like he can force a draw.
I had it the same.
You know what I'm saying? So then I was looking in my head, I was sitting there saying, I was like, well, I didn't see Danny start to push the action. I was like, maybe it was his eye, or then I started thinking about what I was saying that I had concerns about is where, was he still hungry enough? Will you become so successful? You know what I'm saying? And you have accomplished so much in the sport. You know what I'm saying? Was you willing to go a little extra? I still seen the hunger in Danny. Even though we seen Danny battered and he had his eye messed up, he was still coming forward, taking mean shots, and he didn't fall. He didn't fall. Say what he wanted to say about Danny Garcia, but he didn't fall. And he stood in there with the bigger guy. This fight reminded me when I was watching the fight, it brought me back to when Angel and Danny, they was in the ring and how Danny was like, how he wanted to move up to 147. And his dad was like, no, he wanted him to stay at 140 for a while. You know what I'm saying? And that's what was just flashing in my head when I was watching this fight. But good fight. Pardon me?
They talking about 154 now. I'm like,
no, he's too small. Danny's small. I always said Danny and Broner, these guys were too small for 147. That's just me, but that's me being babying these guys because these guys is dogs. Danny's a dog. He was bringing it to the bit, and this was the best Spence we have ever seen. Don't get it twisted. This wasn't the booger sugar getting drunk Spence. You know what I'm saying? This ain't the partying all night Spence hanging out with the Charlos. Pardon me?
Katie didn't do the views and opinions of.
Oh, I'm sorry. But this was.
You know what? There's something to support that. I don't know about the booger sugar, but at least
that's also,
you know, there's
that was something that was brought up because for people, you know, they were saying that, you know, it was a rumor that I had heard when people was talking about, you know, for their weight and all that. They even blamed the Charlo brothers for it too, also. You know, when they were. I guess it was an interview they was doing. They must have had a little cold or something, a little runny nose, and it was the whole time. So, you know, people started talking. People started talking. You know. So, but this was the best.
Turner.
Yeah. This is the best Earl we have seen in a long time. This wasn't the Earl that was running around, and you know, so this was a focused Earl. You can even tell by his physique and his and everything. This was a different type of Earl, and Earl and then he went up against a prime Earl. I think if Earl was to fight any of these other guys that he fought before, this Earl right here, he would knock him out and take him out. You know what I'm saying? But this was a great fight. And Earl deserves all the credit. You know what I'm saying? And Danny deserves some credit too. Standing in there, taking some shots, and going toe-to-toe with the bigger guy.
All right, Ned.
First I want to say, yeah, I totally agree with Gerald. When Errol Spence came in there, he looked fresh. He looked different. Like we were all thinking like the car accident would affect him the way he would expect his that performance in the ring. But he came in there, he looked fresh. He looked like Spence we never seen before. And last night when he was fighting Danny, he was boxing Danny. He didn't let Danny be the counter fighter that he is. And that's where like Danny fell short because he wasn't able to capitalize off of Errol Spence's mistakes. But all in all, it was a great fight. The comeback was amazing. And I'm glad that he's still at a peak of his game. And hopefully I can't wait to see what's next for the kid, man, because the truth is the truth. And nothing but the truth.
Hold on, can I just read Spence's tweet real quick?
Go ahead.
He said, "I do much better when I box, but that's boring to me." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that to me has summed up Spence's career, to be honest. Where it's like he could do it, and sometimes he just like, yeah, let me switch it up, you know. So, but salute to him, man. He switched it up, and it's not like Garcia capitalized off of the situation, like Ned just said.
All right, so for starters, I know most of you know me as Caden, but when I'm Showtime Caden, I'm the most stylish, best color coordinated person on YouTube. All right, so to dive into my thoughts about the fight, there were a number of things. So for starters, when we first heard Spence rising through the ranks and we got a glimpse of Errol Spence, we predicted that he would be where he's at today. But like Trill pointed out, we started to see him drunk and there were rumors and his performances weren't matching what he was projected to be. He beat Mikey Garcia, but most people thought he would knock Mikey Garcia out. He outboxed Mikey, and there were critics about that. Then he fought Showtime Sean Porter, and I had Showtime Sean Porter winning the fight until Earl dropped him. And you have to understand, I thought Sean Porter had no business in the ring with Earl. We laughed about it. We didn't give Sean Porter much of a chance. So when I'm looking on my card and Sean is winning at that particular point in the fight, I'm like, man. And then Earl dropped him and took control of the fight. But that was a Spence that still didn't learn his lesson because he ended up having that car accident when he was drinking, and then everybody knows the story. But what they showed in the buildup was that changed his outlook on life. He changed his circle. He appreciated things more. Instead of buying Ferraris, he brought a wrench. And you saw him in shape. You saw a determined, motivated fighter. And his team all along was saying that Errol Spence is in the best shape. He's looking good. And we hear that all the time. Come on, that's promotion 101. But it was also possible that it was true, given the fact that he had that near-death experience. And if anyone's ever experienced a near-death experience, you know that you start to appreciate the little things more. Like you start to understand that, like, what's really important. Because when you feel like, hey, whether it's you're in the airplane and there's too much turbulence or you're on the block and shots start to ring out and it's coming in your direction, you start to realize quickly, like, oh, shoot. Like, you know, I've seen near death.
Noriega, they call me stand still.
Because when they buck, I just stand still. I always wanted to see someone put that theory to the test with Noriega. Because you and I both know he would be screaming and running. Or at least you hit the floor. You stand still. Like, come on. I mean, like, true story, though. I was in Academy Homes. And I was a kid. We were all out there playing kickball. And they started shooting. Now, I didn't live in Academy Homes. It was my first time ever in that situation, and I just froze. So sometimes you can stand still because you freeze. And then these group of kids grabbed me and pulled me to the floor. So, oh yeah. So maybe he's standing still because he froze. But no, getting back to this here. Like I said, if Errol Spence is the guy I originally thought would be the last guy standing, he beat Danny Garcia. But if he was the guy who fought Sean Porter, if he was the guy who wasn't taking boxing seriously, I thought Danny would beat him. And I think there was enough in that fight for you to see that. Danny was crafty. Danny was clever. Danny caught Earl with some stuff. But Earl was sharp. Earl was on his game, the jab, punches to the body. Earl got clipped a few times, and he showed a great beard. He showed that he has a good chin. I think a lot of those rounds were close. And I think it was Brian Kinney who was pointing it out, and the telecast would get mad. They were like, oh, but Earl's still winning the round. He's like, yes, okay, fine. You think Earl won the round, but he landed 9 punches and Danny landed 8. So, yeah, Earl nicked the round, but Danny was in that round. And they were like, so it doesn't matter what the punch stats. Then why you show them? If they don't matter, why you show them? If the punch stats don't matter. The punch stats, and to tell you the truth, I saw Danny land like 3 punches, and they didn't move the punch stats one time. So, I mean, I never really trust punch stats when I judge a fight. What I can say is this. Earl gave just as good as he got with the power shots, but he also did way better than Danny Garcia with the jabs. So, for me, that's what nicked the rounds for him. It wasn't in the power exchanges. Danny got it as good as he received, but Earl also dominated the empty spaces of the round with the jab, and that's what swung it his way. If you watch that fight again, don't make it seem like Danny Garcia got blown out, because that's not what happened. I mean, I know some people are like, I only gave Danny 1 round, and I'm like, well, hey, man, you know, if that's the fight you're watching. But that's not the fight that I'm watching. And I was actually proud of Sean Porter when they went to Sean and he said, I actually gave Danny 4 rounds. But this is what I don't understand about the telecast. At the point where Sean said he gave Danny 4 rounds, he called it a blowout, but it was round 10. What was it going into round 11? Like Trill said, where Danny could have pulled out a draw. So the commentary was a little bit biased to me as well. I mean, there were times Danny would land a shot, they wouldn't even mention anything. But the point I'm making is it took that Earl to beat Danny Garcia. And anything short of that Earl, Danny might have won. And so I was happy to see Earl win. To me, that's his most impressive fight. Coming off of the accident, coming off of what he had to endure, people questioning whether he's going to be the same. That was a beautiful performance. Now, for Danny Garcia, he needs to go back to the drawing board. And I get what G's saying, and I understand what Trill's saying, that Angel was telling him what to do. But I always say this. There's a difference between professional coaches and amateur, high school, college level coaches. Here's the difference. If you turn on like a show like Friday Night Tykes where they're covering Pee Wee football, all you see is coaches saying, push him back, get aggressive, make the tackle. But did you show him how to make the tackle? Did you show him the technique of how to push someone back? Instead of yelling at him saying, push him back, say, get your hands here, put him up under his chest, dig your feet. You tell them how to push him back. You keep telling them push him back. They understand that. You think they don't know that? You think they don't know that? They need to push him back. They know that. The problem is you're not showing them how to push him back. And so they're not just magically going to learn how to push him back. And so the Angel Garcia telling Danny to do all those things in the corner, it sounds good on the telecast. It really does. But you were supposed to be showing him that in camp. You had all that time to show him how to do those things. So if you would have showed him how to do those things in camp, you wouldn't have to be yelling it in the corner. And this is why I think Angel Garcia, you made your son unified champion at 140. You made your son welterweight champion, I think Angel Garcia took Danny as far as he can get him. 3 L's against elite welterweights. It doesn't help that Danny's a tweener, and that's the point that Trill's point out. A tweener is someone who plays a position that they're not big enough for. Like, if you have like, that's the difference really between guys who play in the NBA and guys who are really good in college. Guys who go to top D1 schools and guys that go to mid-majors. Because you'll have a guy with a phenomenal skill set at small forward, but he's only 6'3". And there'll be a guy with the same skill set who's 6'6", 6'8". And that's what separates the two. And Danny's a tweener. So he's not the big guy in the welterweight division. And there's a guy like Earl with his skill set, and he's so much bigger. But getting back to Angel, I think moving forward, Danny, I got 2 names for you. Freddie Roach, Robert Garcia. You need to holler at one of those guys because your offense is what fails you. You are too defensive-minded. You don't know how to lead. You don't know how to lead, which is a problem. Even at the end of the fight, in the last 10 seconds, you started throwing caution to the wind, and you put Earl on the defense because he got to respect your power. But where was that? You should have did that in round 1 when you were fresher. You might have clipped him. But you're so defensive minded because that's how you train. And Freddie Roach has he helped Miguel Cotto revamp his career and several other fighters. And you see what Roberto Garcia is doing with Jose Cito Lopez and so many other fighters. You need better offense. We know you can counter. We know you can survive. Bro, put them hands on people. Because you are not going to outbox Errol Spence. Never. Wasn't going to happen. So my take on the fight, my reaction to it, Earl's back. He looks good. I second what Trill said. To me, that was the best performance I've seen from Errol Spence, given the fighter. I know people like to downplay the fighter, but that fighter, put your favorite fighter in the ring with that fighter and let's see how he looks. And then tell me that Danny Garcia is not elite. But Earl looked good. Danny needs new guidance because his team has got him as far as they can take him. That's my take.
Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And please check out our podcast on all major streaming services. We are the Boxing Bros.
We could have been flawless, flying up to make people's mouths drop jawless. How can 2 years be erased in 1 August? And you know I have my pride, so I had to get brolic. All in all, I can't call it. Just know you're my queen. Wish I was denim, cause then I be in your jeans. Can't fight fate, and you've been loving me since your teens. But when you can't move forward, you gotta wipe your slate clean.